like if you do a cross race, sorry, I mean, I love watching cyclocross,
No,
but
I know
probably forget
exactly what
it.
you're gonna say.
Yeah, they start to blend in. Like, I can't remember details of most of my
Yeah,
XC racing, but you will never forget riding through the night for the first
yeah.
time. 100%.
What's going on, everybody? My name is JP, and I want to welcome you into the Stable Cyclist Podcast, where we talk about bikes, life mentality, and when the occasion arises, we will deep dive into mental health. My guest today is Chris Mehlman, and he is an ultra distance racer who has done really well in races like Badlands and the Unbound XL, and also the Traka 560 version. We're going to get Chris in here in a little bit, but before we do that, I want to remind you that the Stable Cyclist Podcast is sponsored by Flow Formulas. If you are training for a super long race like I did this summer at the Mahahe 100, and you need all the good fuel to get you going and all the good carbs, then Flow Formulas is for you. And you can put it in your bottles just like I did at the Mahahe 100, where I drank 3 gallons of Flow Formulas without any gut distress or GI distress, and made it across the finish line, taking only fluids in that day and nothing to eat, and everything was awesome. And you can use all of their products, whether it's their electrolytes during the day or their endurance mix or their recovery mix. All of them are amazing, and when you go to checkout, you can use the code JohnPeter15 at checkout for a discount on those goodies in your cart. All right, enough of all that. Let's get Chris Mehlman into the studio. Well, Chris Mehlman, welcome to the Stable Cyclist Podcast. You have taken the crown now for most requested guest when I talk to my previous guests of who I should interview. And so we finally got you in the seat. You're still here stateside, which we'll dig into, but welcome to the show, man.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. Yeah, that's I think that's overstating things being the most requested guest, but
For
I
real you
appreciate
are.
that.
For real you are. And the first couple people, I just kind of like, I'll be honest, I just like brushed it off. And then as it kept coming up, I'm like, okay, like there's more here. So I'm really excited to have this conversation. And I think there's a lot of good stuff. We always start off with kind of your beginnings or how you got into the bike, because it always lays the groundwork for everything else that comes after it. So how do we get into you finding the bike that eventually leads to you doing the crazy stuff we'll talk about later?
Yeah, so I mean, like a lot of kids that started riding when I was pretty little. My family's always enjoyed outdoor activities in general, especially endurance sports. I think it's just it's in our blood, and so yeah, I skied a lot when I was younger. That was my first sport, and I grew up riding. I remember, riding tagging along with my parents when I was really little. And then when I was probably 10 or 11, I started mountain biking with my dad. So he'd go out with one of his coworkers on the weekends, and my mom had a joke that if they didn't come back muddy or bloody, they didn't have fun, and unfortunately, that was kind of true. Yeah, he had some gnarly crashes, but yeah, I started riding with him and my brother, and then it was sort of a freedom for me because we lived probably about 2-3 miles from this little hole in a fence where you could cut into this trail system called the West Hartford Reservoir. This was in Connecticut. And if anyone is from that area, they'll be very familiar with it. It's probably been ridden since the beginning of mountain bikes. But yeah, obviously didn't have my license, but I could ride up the road, and my parents didn't mind me just going alone for 2 hours in the woods.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, I started racing in the NESCA, New England High School Cycling Association league in junior year of high school. I was 16, yeah, junior year of high school, I think. That was the first year it existed. It's now called New England Youth Cycling. And yeah, it started off with 200 kids, or 100, no, like 150. And I went to the first race, and I was just like flabbergasted by how many kids were on mountain bikes. And now there's like 1,500 probably.
Yeah.
And it probably could be even bigger. I think one of my friends actually runs it now, which is pretty cool. But that's how I started racing, and then yeah, I kind of kept on the XC path, mountain biking, and I joined Bear National Team in 2020. Meaning I was there 2021 as well, so I really only had one season because of COVID. And honestly, we can get into that. It wasn't the best experience for me. Just, I wasn't not super suited to XCO, and I think the development team pathway wasn't really my thing. It definitely also just wasn't good enough to make it in the XCO circuit. I was teammates with uh, Riley Amos, Bjorn Riley, um, let's see, Vito Lopez, the San Ramon. Like, it was quite the list of hitters on the team, and I definitely
Yeah.
was not amongst that. Yeah, and then 2022, I decided to go out on my own and tried gravel, and I'd done a bunch of marathon mountain bike racing. Like, Breck Epic was my first one, really, and I just absolutely loved that. And yeah, gravel, same thing. And then did my first Unbound XL in 2022, and that was kind of when I was like, oh, this ultra thing is pretty cool. I did decent there, and yeah, that was kind of it. And I kind of kept doing regular gravel races and more ultra stuff. And then next year, I'm like, okay, we're just gonna commit to ultra. I'll do some sort of stuff, but really, I really just enjoy ultra more, and it suits me a lot better.
Yeah.
So yeah,
So you're an East Coast boy. At the is it in the high school level or in that Devo level that you cross paths with good friend of the podcast Logan Casper?
yeah. So that was God. That must have been the end of high school, I think, because he was just like new to racing. He probably started racing about the same time I did. I don't think he'll mind me saying this. He's a little older than me, but he just like came out of nowhere and just started crushing people on the pro circuit in XCO, and it was hilarious, like just so strong. And yeah, I mean, we raced together a bit in the XC side. I think he's not cut off. He was very good at it in the local level,
Yeah.
but I don't think that's what he enjoys. And he likes adventuring. And yeah, I think uh, he did Unbound XL in 2023 and won it. And we can get into that story. And he's the one who inspired me to build my drop bar hardtail because he won it on a drop bar hardtail in the mud when
Yeah.
everyone else was in gravel bikes with not very much tire clearance. But yeah, he's just a good guy, and like I mean, he's one of those people who he's very strong, yes, but he's also just so mentally strong. He's probably the mentally toughest person out there. Like, nothing phases him, and I think
Yeah.
that's what makes him so good at these ultra events. And he's pretty legendary for some of the
Yeah.
absolutely wild things he's done.
Absolutely. Well, and he may have been messaging with me earlier today with some questions that I'm going to ask you later. So,
Oh boy,
yeah,
this could be interesting.
we'll save those. But I bring him up because I I know his story very well. As I've learned more about your story, you were kind of on the same path, and then you have like very divergent paths, and then you kind of eventually land in the same landscape again. And so I kind of want to talk with you. Mentioned that there was some U23 Devo stuff that did not go so well, and I guess that's where I think you two kind of started to diverge, and maybe I'm wrong there, but you had kind of a rough experience there that led you more down the pro gravel path versus just like straight into the ultra crazy stuff that he did.
Yeah, so I think XCO never was I was never great at XCO. I'm not
Yeah,
physiologically suited to it. I'm not the best technical rider. I think everyone out there knows that. But also just I mean, I won't not afraid to admit I have not broken 1,000 watts this year. And I have tried. I did break it, when I was racing XCO and really
yeah,
training for
yeah,
XCO, but not by very much. I think maybe 1,100 watts is my max power.
sure,
And to put in
yeah,
perspective, I'm 6'2",
yeah,
so it should be pretty easy to do that. And this is on multiple different power meters, the same power meters you do. I can do, I would say, decent 20-minute power, but
right on.
can't sprint. And so for me, I think Bear National Team it still is. It's the premier U23 and junior development team in the
Yeah,
U.S.
yep,
When I was a junior, there was also Whole Athlete, which is where Blevins and Kate Courtney went through, and like Kevin Vermarka, Quinn Simmons, and stuff before they went to the road. But when I joined Bear, I think it was one of my friends, Nick Lando, also a Massachusetts. Well, he's from New Jersey, but now he's a Massachusetts guy. Um, he was on there, and he was I'd say a good friend and mentor kind of when I was joining it. But after being on there, he kind of described it as like the sex appeal of like it feels like you've made it because it feels very
sure,
professional.
sure,
But I don't think it was a good environment for me. I'm not the most social person when it comes to traditional, 18, 19, 20-year-old social norms. And so it was pretty cutthroat. Um, the support was good. I think like, Julia does a lot for the sport. Like she kind of bankrolls, like, I think it's okay to say she bankrolls US mountain biking. Like I don't think it's going too far to say that she's one of the main reasons why we're having so much success right now. She funded apologies for the dogs in the background. She
No
funded
worries.
yeah, she funded, trips to Europe for juniors for U23s, and yeah, but I think, with that team, one thing I found was, I was always near the bottom of the pecking order, and so what it felt like was trying to prove to Julia that you deserved a spot on the team,
Yeah.
and I think that's just can be natural sometimes, where it's like you get selected and you feel like you're not worthy, and that there's a lot of other kids who want to be on this team, and if you have a bad result, like you're like, oh my God, like this isn't good. And it felt like you came down to racing your own teammates.
Sure.
And so I didn't enjoy it. And I had a lot of friends who kind of burned out through, racing at the XCO circuit. And I think it's just that circuit in general it's a different mentality. It's a different style of racing. It's pretty
Yeah.
intense as a U23. And some people had kind of banked everything on it. I was definitely not that way. Like I was like, I'm never going to be that good at this. But yeah, I think then, going into gravel, um, I realized the longer races were better, and so it made sense to start with like shorter gravel, shorter but still long events, but
Yeah.
shorter than Austria. So I
Yeah.
started first gravel race was Mid South in 2022, and man, it was a different sport back then.
Yeah.
Like
Yes. Yes.
I sound like an old guy saying that, but like it was a different sport. I mean, it was chill for the first like hour and a half. It was like a group of probably 60, and just a wildly different thing.
Well,
And
I always tell people on the pod, to me, there's like pre-COVID gravel, and then there's post-COVID gravel, and then you can almost differentiate like a pre-2023 gravel and
yeah,
post-2023, because
exactly.
that's when I talk to a lot of people that have been on the ground, especially in the media world where I'm finding myself a lot more. They will say, "Man, 2023 changed everything." Specifically at Unbound. But I remember this year being at Unbound for the 200, and they came by like 400 meters into the race, pinned. And I was
Yeah,
like, what is going on?
yeah. Well, we can get into how even Unbound XL's changed, but like when I
Yeah.
did Unbound XL that year, it was like an afterthought. Like it was started in the expo area in the side parking lot, and they like see you in 24 hours, hopefully alive or dead.
Yeah.
And then this year we had the helicopter over us for the XL
Yeah.
start.
Yeah.
It was like tons of media, and obviously, okay, Lachlan Morton and Leo Wilcox were there. That
Yeah.
makes a difference. There's an effect to that, but it's just grown in size, and yeah, we can get into like how I feel about that in the ultra scene,
Yeah.
but yeah, that was going back to Bear. That was kind of the there's it was a tough time. I think if I had stayed another year in there, I probably wouldn't be in the sport still. Just in
Mm.
XC racing. And so I think it was a good call to go out on my own. And I think it was hard, but I've learned so much, honestly,
Yeah.
to the point where I have people reaching out to me now, like who are leaving Bear, who are like, I don't know what to do now.
Yeah.
And I've now learned like the whole privateer system, how this works. And it's been really fun, honestly, sharing that knowledge with people.
Sure.
Even like people like Griffin Hoppin, who just won the U23 Lifetime Grand Prix. He's incredibly talented. Like he's going to go places, but he doesn't understand the sponsorship side of things yet.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that's a new thing for him. And so it's been fun. Like, we just rode today and we had 4 hours of just talking about
Yeah.
sponsorship and the business side of cycling. And I think it's been a good life experience to go through that, because they're all skills that you can apply to the real life. It's not the same as applying for a job, but it's not that far off. You're
Yeah.
still building out a resume for yourself. You're still, you know, using connections. Like I hate to say it, connections are everything. And
$100%. Yes.
if you know
Yes.
somebody who knows somebody, you need to leverage that connection. So it's like if you know your friend who has a contact at SRAM, you have to be willing to put yourself out there.
Yeah.
And I think it's been a really good learning experience. And yeah, I think I'm very glad of the decision I made to leave Bear. I don't think it would have gotten accepted again that year after, but
Sure.
yeah, that's
What
kind of the story behind that.
what made you, because I think so many people that listen to this show might be stuck in a crappy job or situation, and you were kind of looking at a scenario where, like, I'm probably not going to get asked back, but I need to leave also. And like, I'm stepping out into total unknown. It's not like sometimes where it's like, oh, you've developed this thing into a point where you can leave your one job into the other. This is, I'm going to have nothing, but it's time to go. How did you get to the point of stepping through that door essentially? And then I have a follow up to that once you're done
Yeah.
telling us about that.
So going back to when I joined Bear, I initially said no. And I was told by the team manager, no one says no to Bear, which is kind of, I mean, it's kind of true, but I was because I wanted to do marathon racing. But
Yeah,
then it was like it did feel like a lot of peer pressure. It's like I can't turn down this opportunity. And so I joined it. And, my coach, when I decided to go do my own thing, was like, I've been wanting you to do this for a long time. And I knew you,
sure.
and I think I knew deep down, like I should have done that earlier, but you can't look back. But yeah, I think it was just like, this is the natural progression. Like I'd had connections from when I was a junior, like Jobo Vittori, who I'm still working with,
Yeah.
Pivot, who I worked at a Pivot dealer when I was in high school, and I didn't start working with them as a sponsor right after Bear, but just again leveraging those connections, I think it was like I want to enjoy the sport,
Right.
and to me, that was if I want to stay in the sport, it has to be something I like, and so yeah, it just made sense, and I couldn't be happier with that decision.
Okay, so you step away from XCO and from mountain biking. Are you working at this time, or do you go fully into like figuring out what a privateer is?
Yeah, and so I obviously like still mountain bike, just not doing XCO, doing like marathon as well.
Sure.
But
Yep.
yeah, so I was still in college then. So I
Okay.
started in 2020. So I started college in 2019. I had most of the year, and I had a really tough time that winter right before COVID. I had to go home. It was I got a concussion right before that and just
Mm,
really struggled.
yeah.
But then we got all sent home for COVID, and so yeah, it was all of sophomore year I spent taking classes remotely and only had junior and senior year on campus. And then that time I also was working remotely for an active travel company as their operations manager. So it was quite the balance to juggle it all. And so yeah, for me, it was just obviously number one priority was school, and then racing was yeah a huge priority of mine. But I'm under no illusions. Like even if you're the best in the world, you've only got so many years at this, and
Yep.
even the best in the world, he's making okay Pogachar, he's making a lot of money, but he's not making that much money. I mean, he's making
Right.
enough to be very comfortable, but most people in the gravel space, you can't retire off of what
No.
you're making. And for me, no way.
Right.
So yeah,
Right.
so I was very very aware of that. So I just kind of started digging around, figuring out how to use this privateer thing. I have some great mentors. Yeah, shout out one Chris McKernan who connected me with Craft Sportswear initially back when they were actually based in the same town my parents live in, which is pretty funny, at the U.S. headquarters. He's been in the industry a long time, very well connected, and gave me advice. Chris Zigmont as well, who now is the marketing director at Vittoria. So things come around. It's pretty funny. So I'm working with him as an athlete now, and but at that time he gave me advice as a mentor, like how
Yeah.
do you build an athlete deck? Like what is an athlete deck? I'm like, well,
Yeah. Yep.
is it just like a list of race results?
Yeah.
And I've seen a lot of interesting athlete decks out there. But yeah, and so
Yes.
I think that was it. And yeah, and since then I've done school, still working remotely now. I'm working for a marketing agency, and so that's actually been good because there's a lot of parallels between what I do as an athlete and what I do for my career.
Sure.
And I'll be totally honest, all these sponsor connections I'm making are also hopefully potential jobs in the future because
Yeah. Yep.
I they're all marketing contacts at these
Yep.
companies, and I will admit I have a spreadsheet of contacts, and yeah, it's something that's like it's important. Anytime I meet somebody, it's like you never know when that person's gonna be key in the future. Like the
Yeah.
boss I work for right now, I met him when I was in high school. I didn't know 8 years later I'd be working for him. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. No, I have experienced that as well as an athlete, now moving into the media space, and connections matter and relationships matter, and how you treat people and then keeping track of them over time matters
yeah,
a ton. So
totally.
as you, so with that, like, how long before you started to feel comfortable? You're getting mentoring, it sounds like, from a lot of awesome people in your life, whether it was your coach or these people that were coming and going. At what point did you feel comfortable with this, like, partnership, sponsorship, privateer building process? Or maybe you still don't.
I mean, I think we're always learning. I do think in the last probably year and a half, I've gotten much more comfortable with it. And I'm also learning just to be more comfortable with putting myself out there.
Yeah.
But I mean, you're always learning, and there's no right way to do it. So, for example, for me, I made the decision very early on that I don't want to race full time. There's no way
Mm,
I can make. I'm not good enough to make a living off of it. And if I was, it would be a very sketchy living. I
sure.
always like to joke that cycling is one of the few careers you can go into where every year you've got a greater than 50% chance of getting fired at the end of the year for no fault of your own. And so it's
Yep.
like you could have done a great job, but they're like, we don't have money,
Yep.
or this team. If you're on some roadside, I mean, especially this year, this team's folding. I mean, you
Yep.
look at a bunch of road teams folding. Where are
Yep.
those people going to go? Not just the riders, the staff.
Yep.
They're all fighting for jobs. That, there's one job for three people. So that was something I made a decision about pretty early. So that makes my process a little different, where I can often just go to companies asking for product versus, saying, "Hey, I
Yeah.
want
Yes.
$10,000 from you," because there are very few companies in the bike industry making what we would generally consider in the corporate world, a lot of money.
Right.
And so asking for money from bike companies, it's really tough, and you got to be really good, and not just good at racing. You need to provide a lot of benefit to them. And
Yeah.
so it's a lot easier to ask for product. And my mentality is, okay, like I'm getting definitely more into the cash side, but my mentality is like, if I can cover costs for, most of my product, or all of the product, then paying for everything else is a little easier. I luckily am very have a lot of really good friends in this space now, and so sharing housing and coordinating
Yes.
travel is
Yep.
is a lot easier. And so I think, yeah, it's definitely it's something you never get fully comfortable with, and I'm well aware that I am not that knowledgeable in the grand scheme of things. But I think each year I learn a little bit more, and that helps a lot.
Yeah. So you mentioned, like, you mentioned to me before this, you love digging into the business side of this, and how do you, like, in your position, you're not a top 10 in the lifetime Grand Prix. And I think a lot of times, you and I keep saying there's not a lot of money in the bike industry, but the people living in the top 10 of the Grand Prix, and even somewhat outside, I think have a pretty comfortable year to year salary or amount of money they're making. But how does somebody like you provide, like, let's let's say that you're selling yourself, how do you provide that benefit? Because you're not going to go and race in the lifetime Grand Prix, and you're doing some of these, like, very popular but niche ultra
Yep.
races. So yeah, I relate to this totally. Sorry, I'm stumbling all over this, but I
No,
relate to
you're good.
totally what you're talking about, because I raced this year with a kit full of sponsors, and every single one of them was product based. And people would say to me, "But you're not getting any money." And I'm like, "I don't need any money. I have a full time job." And
Yeah.
I did not spend a dollar on my bike setup this year. Everything was
Yep.
given to me, and I work really hard in the background and on social and putting content out to provide value to these companies. But for you, what does that look like?
Yeah, so I think, like, ultimately what I've realized is I want to inspire people to get out on two wheels, and that's
Yeah.
kind of the broad mission, I'd say, if I have one. And for me, what I've realized is I can be a lot more relatable to people. So maybe riding 500 miles isn't relatable, but the reason I do this and the reason I ride is very relatable. I just like riding
Yeah.
my bike. That's why I
Yeah.
do these races. And
Yeah.
those races themselves, everyone's going there to finish. Like I don't care what you say. I mean, I went to Badlands to finish that race, and it
Yeah.
wasn't the result that felt good. Same with Traka 560. It just felt good finishing, and it's one of those few areas of cycling where you can go in and be like everyone feels good about finishing. And in terms of relatability as well, like I work a real job on the side,
Yeah.
and okay, I don't have kids, that's not something I'm particularly interested in right now. But it's more relatable than somebody who's training, 100% full time. And obviously, I'm very fortunate. I work remotely. My boss is pretty flexible. I'm able to travel to races and stuff. But one of the things I really value is accessibility
Yeah.
and that relatability side. So for me, I not that long ago have been there and still am there. Like if I message somebody on Instagram, there are a lot of pros who just won't respond. Like
Hmm.
just like I'm too cool for you.
Yep.
Or I don't want to ride with you because I'm too cool for you. And it's like, well, here's the thing. Like, first of all, every one of us has been there. I don't care who you are. No one was, Keegan Swenson wasn't born. I'm not saying he does this. But Keegan Swenson wasn't born the best, the
Yeah.
marathon world
Yeah.
champion. It
Yeah.
doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
And it really frustrates me because also like that's your job. Like your
Yeah.
job is not just to be an ambassador for your brands, it's to be an ambassador for the sport. Because like growing the sport is exciting. Like there is nothing more rewarding than getting a mess. Like you spend the time to interact with somebody, you have questions, and then they come back to you after their event, like, hey, I tried this and it worked really well.
Yeah.
And it's like that's awesome. Like I'm
Yeah.
super excited. Well, like even like one of so Vittoria is one of my sponsors, and one of their employees is doing the Chaka next year. And so we
Yeah.
just had a meeting, not about tire. No, we did talk about tires, not about like
Yeah.
sponsorship, not about this. Just like how do you prepare for this race? And
Yeah.
like I love that. Like that's really fun because I don't like. I'm not somebody who enjoys the normal social life. Like I never went to a college party. I'm terrified of that stuff. But
Yeah.
talking about bikes, I can do that all day.
Yeah.
And so that's important for me. And I think in terms of the way I do it, I think the most important thing is authenticity. So I really love to write. And so that's where Substack has really come in. And that's been a really fun way of communicating with people because I love social media, but Substack people are more engaged. And so people take the time to read your stuff. And
Yeah.
it's been cool because, like, when I first started, it was like family and friends. And then, like, this year at Sea Otter, I had people come up to me like, hey, are you Chris Mehlman? And they don't know me because of results. I mean, of course they don't know me because of results. I'm not Keegan
Yeah.
Swenson,
Yeah.
but they know me because of Substack. And I'm like, that's
Yeah.
really cool. Like, it's exciting that people are actually reading this. And like, I'm doing a series about moving to Spain, and I had the parent of a very good Canadian junior who's moving over there. Um, we're going to be racing for like a World Tour development team. Who's like, this is really helpful. Like, we don't know what we're doing, and I'm like, well, I don't know what I'm doing either. But like, just documenting it and sharing it
Yeah.
is cool.
Let's
And I
learn as
think,
we go. Yeah.
yeah, and it's kind of like for me that is almost like a journal that's just public, where like a lot of it is just it's like an accountable way. It makes me accountable to like reflect on these races and reflect on what I'm doing, and it's cool to share it with people. So yeah, I think it's just being creative and being authentic. Like I do videos and stuff. Like I did a whole Badlands like vlog, which actually was really, I'll be honest, like I'd never taken even a photo. And I'd taken one photo in any long race I'd done. That was there was like I think it was Gravel World's Long Voyage last year. It was like 90 miles in. It was pretty chill at that point. It was sun was setting, so I just took a photo and posted to Instagram story. And Badlands, I was like, I've got this Insta 360. I use it like the Insta 360 Go, which is like the size of a finger. I use it all the time in other races. What if I like brought it for Badlands? And then I jury rigged the system where I could like tilt it up facing towards me so it fill my face, and or I could tilt it facing forward. So I had the 15-minute video, which just was cool for me to look back at because it's like you
Yeah.
could just see the progression of like emotions as you go through. And it was also really cool to share with people because people always ask like what's it like inside there, and it's like, well, it's really hard to describe, but you know here's a video of what I'm going through, what it
Yeah.
looks like where you're riding in the dark and descending at night. And so yeah, it's just it's a long way of going about it, but I think it's just being authentic, it's being relatable, and it's being somebody who um yeah, I don't. I think the most important thing is you're just able to connect with people on a human level, and it's
Yeah.
not just about social media following and how many likes you got and all that
No,
stuff.
100%.
Like, I don't have a huge social media following, but
Yeah.
like the the number of times where even just in-person interactions where you can develop a connection and that person or say, you answer a bunch of questions for somebody and that makes them able to like go do this race.
Yeah.
Like you've now hopefully helped somebody develop a love for cycling or for going out on two-wheeled adventures. And the photos I share and videos and blogs, maybe they're not going to ride 500 miles, but like, it's Saturday. Maybe they're like, oh, I'm going to go do a big adventure tomorrow. Like, this is pretty cool.
Yeah.
And it's fun. I really enjoy that, like, genuinely.
Sorry to interrupt you, but I do have some breaking news about a new exciting gravel series in the Midwest kicking off this year. Chase Wark is hosting the North Star Gravel Series, which is 4 events of varied disciplines in the gravel world spread across 6 months' time. And best of all, there is a $10,000 payout that'll be split across the top 10 of the men and women in that series if you are able to complete all 4 events. And everything gets kicked off with Granny's Gravel Grinder in May. That falls on May 2nd. That is followed by the Hot Dish on June 13th and 14th, a 2-day event in Winona, Minnesota. The Day Across Minnesota is August 1st, and the Filthy 50 is October 10th. Registration for the North Star Gravel Series will open January 1st. Now, the registration for the individual events will not open until the 3rd, or in the case of the Filthy 50, it doesn't open until in June. And so if you want to get your spot, and these races will sell out because they did last year, especially the Day Across Minnesota. If you want to have your spot in the series, you can get it on January 1st. Go ahead and get registered. All 4 races, total cost for registration, if you register all at the same time, is $345 total. That is the same cost or cheaper than racing at Unbound in a single event. Guarantee your spot, like I said, for all the events by registering at bikereg.com. I will have a link in the description below if you're interested in checking that out. And as I said, the North Star Gravel Series is here. It is put on by Chase Wark, and his events do not disappoint. So if you are into gravel racing and you want to go on a wild adventure throughout Minnesota, across the entire state during the year, the North Star Gravel Series is for you. Check it out in the link today. Yeah, for sure. You've mentioned a bunch of times, like, I have a job. This is fun. I've heard you say it in other interviews. This is supposed to be fun. There's a lot about identity in there, and where you find it versus like I'm chasing a result, because we're 30 minutes in here almost, and we have not yet dove in at all to like, so you had a good race at Badlands and got 3rd, and you got 10th at Unbound XL this year, and you got 4th at Traka at the long version. Like, those are things obviously that I want to get to, but to me, your identity lies in something else, or you find value in yourself in other areas. And does that come from your parents and how they brought you up? Does it come from just all these different mentors that you've talked about? Or does it come from, like, you write a lot on social about your mental performance that you do too? So like, where does this identity come from in this ability to just kind of see beyond, hey, this is just for fun and we're just kind of exercising here?
Yeah, I mean, I think I have to say my parents, of course. I'm not. Yeah, seriously though. I mean, Uh, I think one thing they always did was they value experiences.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah.
you know, we would do a lot of stuff outdoors as a kid. We go hiking in the White Mountains. We go up to Maine with my cousins every year and just adventures, skiing, like backcountry skiing. And like I was very fortunate to be able to do that. And that's something that I think instilled in me like, oh, it's cool to explore. And they weren't very strict parents either. So, and I think that was good because they understood that me and my brother put a lot of pressure on ourselves. And so it's like, I always talk about having fun, but I do struggle with that sometimes. Like I put a
Hmm.
lot of pressure on myself, same in school. And so they realize like we don't need to pressure them to get good grades. Like they do that themselves. We're not helping them. And they also, like my brother and I were, I think they were fortunate. We were never late night. We never people. We never they never had to sit up at night worrying if we come home from a high
Sure.
school party. But I think part of that was just like what they instilled in us of like, they weren't the ones, locking things down so much that
Hmm.
we'd every time we were away from them, we'd try and, use that time
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
to let loose. And also just, yeah, like, ways of having fun. Like we didn't have a TV when I was growing up. We didn't have video games. And I didn't get a phone till, I mean, everyone in my, I'm kind of in that, I'm old now, but,
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
even middle school had iPhones. I didn't have an
Yeah.
iPhone. I got a flip phone like seventh or eighth grade just to communicate with my parents. And then I got an iPhone junior of year of high school. And everyone, I mean, like it was to the point where it's like, okay, I think I actually need this at this point. But I was obviously like annoyed then, but like really glad now. Like, I'm like,
Yeah.
damn,
That's
like
amazing.
it was great. And because now I see like, it's crazy. Like 5 year olds have iPhones. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
that sucks.
Yeah.
And I think like, yeah, mentors working with Enso mental performance has been good because it's helped me deal with the stress of around races, which I think tends to be what gets me. It's like the constant activity and like going to the start of races and the days building up to it and just being around just that circus
Yeah.
and just, narrowing in, just kind of not wasting my energy and not getting caught up in the little things, like just kind of relaxing these ultra races. Like if something goes wrong, and I think the more I race as well, like, I mean, it sounds weird. Like, it's almost like you don't care. Like,
Hmm.
you do care, but you're like, you know what? Like, is this race the end of the world? Like,
Right.
I have one goal and it's to finish it. Like, especially
Yeah.
with the ultra stuff. Like, if you finish it, like, that's it. And
Yeah.
if I don't finish it, and I could have, then I'll be mad, 100%. Then I've let myself down. But
Yeah.
like this year at Unbound, like I mean, I was definitely, I'd say I was aiming for a result higher than that. And yeah, I had a pretty rough race and just, I mean, I was just completely fried, but I'm like, I'm going to finish this race. Whatever. And same thing, like that mud year at Unbound 2023, like just
Yeah.
hiking in the middle of the night. I'm like, the only thing that got me to the finish was imagining what I would feel like if I didn't finish it. Because I
Yep.
know how
Yes.
angry I would be at myself. And when I finished, I mean, there's not a more rewarding feeling. And I think that's it, is that feeling of finishing one of those races it is like nothing else. Like it is, I cannot describe how amazing it is just to like cross the line and be like, oh my God, I've just spent the last however many hours like with the constant mentality of I need to move forward. I need to move forward. I've gone through so many dark moments.
Yeah.
And then you get to the finish and like I did that. Like I cannot believe I did that. And so yeah, and then they're also just, I mean, they're excuses to explore cool areas. Like
Yeah.
and I
Yep.
raced yeah, when I raced XCO, I was fly places to ride laps of the course. And I distinctly remember going to uh, Vancouver Island, beautiful place, and did Bear Mountain Canada Cup in 2019. I mean, great course, but like all I could think of was there's so much good other riding around here, and I'm
Yeah.
riding laps of this course. I'm like,
Yes.
this is like a world class riding spot. And I'm like, man, like here I am riding laps of this course. And now it's like get to go and get to ride like 300 miles, explore an entire region in the race.
Yep.
And you know that like you kind of have to, you're going to be miserable for lots of it, but you still like when you're in the mountains and you're able to look around, you're like, you're just alone. Like this is pretty nice. And then also just like training, like you get to ride your bike, go
Yeah.
on long endurance rides, and that's my socialization. So one thing, and Sarah, Dr. Mitchell, and I talk about, she's she's my sports psychologist with Insight Mental Performance, is parallel play. And so one of the reasons I think I struggle with traditional social activities is I sitting face to face, like it's definitely helped working a remote job because I can handle meetings a lot better on video.
Yeah. Yeah.
But like if I went to go get coffee with somebody, like just without knowing them, it would be hard. But I think, especially if it's not related to bikes, but when I'm able to ride with somebody, you're not looking at them in the eye. You're
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
riding next to each other and talking. And like it's a much lower barrier to entry. And so for me, like it's helped unlock a lot of friendships, like all pretty much all my friends from cycling. It's helped me explore new areas, and not
Yep.
just new areas as in like really exotic places around the world, which I've been very fortunate to go to. I mean, just where I live.
Yeah.
Like I've seen every corner and nook and cranny, like every little shortcut, and I wouldn't get to do that if I wasn't able to if I wasn't, riding my bike. So yeah,
Yeah, bikes are the greatest reason to go explore your county where you live and have an excuse to go ride around. And I always tell my wife, I had to go check on the construction jobs and see how they're coming along.
it's the best house shopping as well. I'm
Yeah,
telling you, because you can got to get a sense like this road is not nice to live on. Like it looks nice, but like this is too busy. Like if we're gonna have kids, like don't want to live here, and you can
yeah,
get a sense for a neighborhood. And I think it's like it's the right speed. So I always joke with my parents about that. I'm like you don't drive around, just ride your bike around. Be like, oh, that
yeah,
house is for sale. That's pretty nice. Like let's stop in there. So yeah.
yeah. I teach geography, and my geography students are always like, how do you know where I live? And I'm like, well, I ride around, and then if I don't know who owns that house, I just get the plat map out and look at it when I get home. Like,
Yeah.
this is how you learn and you have fun and you see your area. So, yeah.
Route building, I love route building as well. That's like a big, I mean, when I'm doing ultra races, I go through the whole route and mile by mile, and
Yeah.
at
Yeah.
least for the so something like a Badlands where it's like you need to, the timing of your stop still matters, and you need to make
Yes.
sure there's, so there's water, where water is, where food is, the hours of those places. Because Spain, when things are closed at night, they
Yes.
are
They're
closed.
closed.
And then like, my hammerhead shows fountains on it, which is really cool, like
Oh,
just natively.
nice.
But I'll still mark everything just so that if it's a little off course, I can just say pin nav two and it will take me there. But like it's funny going through that because like when I was going through Badlands, I talk about geography. I mean, so Badlands goes through the only technical desert in Europe.
Yep.
It's like technically termed, it's the only desert in Europe. It also passed like, I was going through the map and I'm like, Indiana Jones site. I'm like, what the heck? So I was like, we're in like Spain. Looked it up, and then I learned the fact that a lot of westerns were filmed
Yeah.
right where Badlands was. So I like learned this new fact, and there's actually two complete scale western towns you can visit right in that desert, which I'm really bummed we didn't ride by. But it's literally like the cowboy shootout western town type of thing.
Yep.
And like just you would never know that without, going through it. And then same thing around here. Like you're planning a route and sometimes you're like, this is a risk. There's not a lot on the Strava heat map, but I'm just going to give it a go. And you give it a go, it doesn't work, or you give it a go and it's like, oh, that was sick.
Yep.
And it's cool. It's like I would say it's like this artboard you have, and you can just kind of
Yeah.
create stuff on it and see it, and you can kind of see, oh, okay, I see the elevation profile, I see the map, I see where it goes roughly, but you never know exactly what it's going to be like until you're there, and I think that's really cool.
Yeah. Well, and I think in our day and age when we've talked about screens and how much youth especially are impacted by screens, the ability to just get out and see stuff is so
Yeah,
healthy for us, and it is fun. It's fun to make routes. It's fun to just get out and ride. And you can do that like even if you're going out for half an hour. And so that's yeah. I want to get back into. We like went off on a total tangent.
that's my bad.
No, it's all good. To all the listeners and viewers, before we sat down, I'm like, we might set the record on this one. I'm not sure, which Logan currently holds. So,
Oh boy,
yeah,
ultra racers.
yeah, exactly. So you said your first gravel race is Mid South 2022. Did I hear you say that correctly?
Yep, that's correct.
Okay, and then how soon do we progress to something like Unbound XL? Was it that same year or was it a year later?
It's that same year.
Oh
So
my word.
I think I told my coach, I'm like, I want to do Unbound, but I don't want to do the 200. Like this XL thing looks pretty cool. And so I just like, yeah, I went in the lottery, and I mean, back then the lottery was pretty easy to get into for the XL. I'm a little
Yeah.
worried this year that I'm not going to get in because I think Lachlan Norton, something like people like, oh, this is other Unbound distance.
Yeah.
But anyway, like, yeah, I just signed up for it and did a bunch of research. I mean, like, it's pretty funny because I work with exposure lights now,
Okay.
and people always like, oh, you're sponsored by companies because they pay you. I'm like, I literally bought their lights before I was sponsored by them. I looked at what Taylor Ladine had used the year
Yep.
before to win Unbound, and I did some research, and everyone's like, these are the best lights. I know Logan uses them as well, and yeah, they're sorry, really freaking good. And then they reached out to me at the end of 2024, like, you want to work together? I'm like, yeah, like, absolutely. Like, I love your stuff. And so that's how I went about it. I was like, what are people using?
Yeah.
And I looked at I mean, I think I copied a lot of what Taylor, who used to be a pivot athlete, by the way, copied a lot of what he did, like tires.
Yeah.
I ran 40C tires, which is hilarious now thinking about it. I never race 40C tires now. Barely even train on them. But yeah, I just kind of looked at that stuff, and my fueling strategy was less than ideal.
Of course.
Um,
Of
I
course.
carried a lot of gels and stuff, but I thought the best thing to buy at a gas station, Cliff Bars, of course. That's all I bought, Cliff Bars, and I
Well,
got the
it was
worst.
2022. We didn't know what a carb really was yet.
Yeah, well, it was also like, I always eat a lot of solid food in ultras, and like I'm a little bit unique in that area. And I have a very strong gut, but the flavor fatigue I got was like
Oh, I'm sure.
epic. Like it was just
Yeah.
like I couldn't look at a Cliff Bar, especially a chocolate chip Cliff Bar, for like a few months after that. And so yeah, I learned a lot through that, and it was completely beginner's luck. I ended up having a good result there, and it was just purely like, you know, I got dropped at every gas station. Those are
Of
the most
course.
stressful times
Yeah.
because like people were so fast. I'm like, how do you refill your bottles that fast? Like, what the heck? And then one guy, like, we came in that morning, the morning out, second morning, I guess. And it was like sun was rising, we're all in good moods, we are just chatting. And usually what would happen is we'd be like pretty serious, and then like within a mile of the gas station would kind of ease up and be just talking. I was talking to this German guy, and about like what he did for a living and stuff. And then like we all pull in, we all inside, and then we came out and he was gone. And I was like, what? And it turns out he had like faked it. So he had like let us go
Uh,
inside and then just took off. And we were so pissed. And so I learned there that yeah, that sort of ultra racing, at least Unbound, is pretty cutthroat.
yeah.
But no, I just yeah, I had all these things that happen. Like, I mean, won't get into details that in terms of bathroom breaks. But yeah, I mean, it just was purely beginner's luck, and I decided to do that, and then that was my only ultra race that did that year. But next year I went back, and did I do another ultra in 2023? I thought I did. Man, honestly I forget. But yeah, it was just like Unbound just became this obsession. It still is. Like I really would love to win it someday. Um, with the time set last year by Rob and also Lachlan, I don't know whether that'll be happening anytime soon. I may
Right.
have missed
Right.
missed my vote there, but yeah, it's pretty cool.
So here you've said, I didn't do any more ultras that year. The question I've started to ask people is, how do you define what is an ultra in your book? And because like in the mountain bike world, when I have guests on and we've had this question, they're like, anywhere when it starts to creep over like 8 to 10 hours, we're in that territory.
Yeah,
But I don't like 8 to 10 hours of gravel, like that's Unbound, the
yeah,
regular one. So in
yeah,
your mind, this is what you kind of do. This is the lane that you've gone into. What do you define an ultra as?
yeah. I mean, like the thing I haven't done is I've done bike packing. I haven't done bike pack racing, so that's the next frontier. And I think the people who focus on that purely, there are people who only do that. Well, like
Yeah.
then say Chaka's too short.
Yeah.
Like I got Chaka 560 this year. Alex McCormick, the winner of Alice Mountain Race, was there,
Yeah.
and he ended up DNFing. But I rode with him for a bit, and we were just on this climb next to each other. And he was like, "Yeah, I'm not feeling it," and it's too short anyway. Like, wait, what the heck? Like, this is pretty long. I mean, I think like, yeah, 300 miles kind of seems like to me like it's an ultra. Like
Okay.
Chaka 360, which is 200 and 220 ish, didn't feel like that. I think it's to me also just like riding overnight or spending a
Sure.
night or whatever.
Sure.
That feels like it's an ultra to me because I think that's one of the coolest experiences of riding overnight. I mean, it is miserable when you're in it, I'd say, but it's also something you can't replicate. And I mean, I never do it in training. I think it's not worth it burning those mental matches in training and physical matches. Um, but yeah, I guess for me, it's probably riding through the night. Like I would consider Vapor Trail 125, mountain bike race in Colorado, which is on my bucket list.
Yep.
I would consider that an ultra because it's just gnarly. It's like
Yeah.
proper mountain biking, but it starts at 10 p.m. They don't have to start at 10 p.m., but they do start at 10 p.m. just because.
That's
I think
mean.
I think there is some logic to it because like living in Colorado, like the weather in the mountains in the afternoons here is
Yeah.
very dangerous. Like you
Yes.
can
Yep.
die.
Yep.
And so I think the idea is like they want people off by like middle of next day. But man, it's yeah, I always love like 10 p.m. start. Like that's gnarly. So I'd say
Yeah.
yeah, stuff like that's an ultra as well for sure.
Okay. So let's talk about the night because I and like my situation's very unique. I like peer into what you do, I'm like very attracted to it and I'm like, yeah, the longer the better always, please. But like sleep deprivation for me is dangerous as a person with bipolar. So I always kind of look at that as like that could be problematic to do, but
Yeah.
just in general, the sleep deprivation is always what gets talked about in the ultra gravel scene because you're going at least through one night. In the case of Badlands, did you go through 2 nights?
Yeah, like almost two. I think I finished at 1:30 a.m. the second night. So yeah.
Okay. So what is that? What is it like? I guess is what I'll just start with because not a lot of people, we can watch all the documentaries we want on YouTube about these races. I don't think it does justice to what that night riding is like and what it's like to be sleep deprived.
Yeah, I mean, I think when I first did it, which is obviously Unbound, very unique terrain. I think, and I still can kind of describe it like this. It feels like you're in this post-apocalyptic world, like you're the last people left on Earth. There's just these lights, kind of dim lights, but everything's just deserted.
Yeah.
Like I had these vivid memories of that first Unbound riding by this oil refinery, and it was just so creepy. Just like you could see, it was in the distance, but you could just see the like completely lit up. They rode by this old train yard, and there's all these like oil tanker trains, just these big hulks next to you. It's really creepy actually. And so yeah, I think that's the way to describe it. I think it's it's also peaceful.
Yeah.
Um, because you're just out there. And
Yeah.
for me, I almost relax a bit because like for example, racing in Europe, I am more comfortable descending at night on roads than I am in the day. And people are like, what? But I'm like, especially on single lane paved roads in the day, I am I'm terrified of cars.
Sure.
You can't.
Yep.
It's not like here where there's two lanes, or at least it's wide enough to squeeze by. There's one lane, and
Yep.
you're ripping down these descents. And some of the locals are like, do you value your life? Whereas at the night, you can see headlights coming from a long way away.
Yeah.
And so for me, like it's actually more relaxing. Um, it's also scary from a sense of like you always imagine lights behind you. Like I'm terrible. I always look behind
Mm.
me and you're like, oh, it's a light, it's a light, bobbing light behind me. And it's like, it's a house. It's fine. And so yeah, it's just you know, it's a unique experience in that sense. But then with the sleep deprivation, what happens is you kind of start to understand your natural sleep cycle. So this is something I actually talked about with Dr. Mitchell from Mental Performance. Like you often will feel your tiredness when you're naturally in a state of like REM sleep.
Yep.
So for me, that's like 3, 4 a.m. and 2, 3, 4 a.m. That's like just doldrums. Like it's hard to stay awake. Like you can pound caffeine, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
And so you go through these serious mood swings of like, feel great. This is amazing. I love this to like, this is terrible. Like I want to be anywhere else. And so it's just, yeah, it can be lonely, it can be scary. And then it's also you deal with wildlife.
Yep.
So if you're in a group, I have to say I do like the non-drafting races now
Yeah.
because I like being alone at night.
Yeah.
It's riding in a group is night is I sometimes am like amazed with what I do. Like we're all in the aero bars. It's pitch black and we're in a pace line at Unbound going 20 plus miles an hour. And what happens is everyone's lights cast shadows. So you
Yep.
can't tell if there's like you just have these shadows shaking ahead of you. You can't tell if it's an animal or just lights because what happens, I mean, people are like, oh, there can't be that many animals. Like, no way. When at night, like there are when you're in Kansas or anywhere, the
Yeah.
number of skunks and like rabbits and deer and everything that run out in front of you, it's quite something. But yeah, I mean, I think for me, it's just it's it's a very challenging experience, but it's very worth doing at least once. And a good race, for example, to start with, something like Gravel World's Long Voyage, it's 300
Yeah.
miles, starts at 5 p.m. Probably going to be out there, depending on the person, you'll be out there one night, maybe a little bit into the second, but it's pretty smooth. It's like a lot chiller than Unbound.
Yeah.
And it's just it's something you won't ever forget. Like if you do a cross race, sorry, I mean I love cycle, I love watching cyclocross,
No,
but
I know
probably forget
exactly what
it.
you're gonna say.
Yeah, you'll they start to blend in. Like, I can't remember details of most of my
Yeah.
XC racing, but you will never forget riding through the night for the first
Yeah.
time. 100%.
Yeah. And that's just I talk about mountain biking all the time. I'm a big Mata 100 pusher with my
Yeah,
film series, of course. But like, same thing for most people, that turns into an ultra,
yeah,
and you finish it, and you're just like, I can't believe I did that, and it just kind of whets the appetite for more stuff like that. And yeah, and you talk about riding in the night. I think riding in the night is very scary for a lot of people. I went through a phase when my kids were like little babies and the only time I could ride was at night. So
yeah,
there was like maybe a 2 year window where I don't think I trained during the daylight except on the weekends.
yeah,
And the rest of the time was like from 8 p.m. to 11 p.m. in that
yeah,
window, and I learned to just love riding at night. But how do
yeah.
you encourage people to get into night riding so it's not quite so scary? And like you said, you don't need to go ride 18 hours to get ready for your race.
I would say it's easier to start early in the morning when it's dark because then you have the sun coming mentally. And yeah, I mean, a lot of people ask me, "Do you ride overnight to practice?" Nope, I've never ridden overnight for fun. I mean, I've ridden a lot in the dark. I mean, some of that is just by necessity.
Yeah.
Live in the northern hemisphere, and
Yeah.
also an early bird. So even sometimes we'll start, super early. I'll meet my friends when I'm back, back on the East Coast for the holidays and stuff. But I've never ridden fully overnight. And I think like, yeah, just getting out. And for me, it's the most important thing is just being comfortable with your equipment. Where is everything kept? How do you operate your lights? Like that sounds really basic, but understanding that it goes a long way because when you're tired, when you sleep deprived, when it's dark, things that seem simple start to become a lot more complicated. But yeah, I
Yes.
think starting early in the morning is great because it's dark out and you can just see the sunrise. It's really cool, and you have that to look forward to. Whereas, I mean, I'm also a morning person, but to me, like, yeah, riding late at night, then coming home, going to bed is, I mean, it's just tougher for me. I think like
Yeah.
if I'm gonna ride late at night, I want to
Yeah.
be in a race that I'm riding through the night because then it's like, well, whatever, I'm missing the whole night's sleep anyway. So
Yeah. Yeah, I can attest that over those 2 years, I didn't sleep real well coming
yep,
back from training.
yep, yep,
But you mentioned earlier that that first Unbound XL you did a lot of Cliff Bars because you didn't know that that wasn't a great idea. How kind of as you've gone, like you keep going longer and you keep going longer. Now you're talking about bike pack racing and that kind of stuff. You're continually finding where that edge is of what you're doing. But as you do that from like a physical performance or like a watts performance point of view, how have you been able to kind of discover where those lines are? And like, I had Kate Boyle on. Well, by the time
yep,
people hear you, it'll be 6 weeks ago. But I had
yep,
Kate Boyle on recently, and she talked about how important it is early in these ultras to just like chill out, calm down,
Yes.
everybody. You
Yep.
gotta go slow. And this year, I had a real successful time at the Mater Hay, and for the first like 2 hours, we just watched people pass us, and we were like, we're
Yep.
gonna catch all of them, and we did catch
Yeah.
almost all of them by the end. But how long did it take you to learn those kind of things and find that edge and discover like, okay, for a 18-hour race it's this, but for like Badlands it's totally different, and what does that look like?
Yeah, well, first off, shout out to Kate and Sid. I think they were the first two females to buckle at Matahe, so that was pretty cool.
At
Yeah,
Margie, at Margie.
Margie, sorry,
Yeah.
Margie, my bad. Yeah, they're absolute legends. So Kate's another pivot athlete, and
Yep.
Sid is somebody I raced Mackie, and technically Sid as well at Breck Epic a lot. Great people,
Sure.
but
Of course.
yeah, I mean, I guess I will say that the pacing thing is definitely something that's hard. Like that is super key, but it's really hard to understand because most people are coming from, even if they're new to racing,
Yeah.
they're coming from like it could be a spin class. It's just
Yeah.
intensity.
Yeah.
So like if you're not suffering, you're not racing. And if you're
Yeah.
coming from XC or cross, then like the classic the joke amongst roadies and mountain bikers is like, yeah, they just always are trying to go hard around the front because they're like, if I'm not feeling like I'm suffering, I'm not racing. And with ultra, you have to feel like you're going so easy in the beginning
Yeah.
because it can feel easy, but then you realize you're going too hard. And I've actually started using a power meter. Like
Yeah.
I've always trained with a power meter.
Yep.
Yeah, I love. I mean, I hate to say it, I love power, but I've started using a power meter in
You
races. I
can
never
you
used
can
to use
say
it.
that on this show.
Yeah, but it's really important for me in races
Yeah.
early on because it
Yes.
keeps me in check. And that's Badlands this year. I was getting dropped literally 3 minutes in. We took this little left turn, and we're still in downtown, and it was like people were sprinting up this climb. I'm like, guys, like it's a non-drafting race, and it's 800 kilometers. Like, is there like a preem at the top of the climb or something I don't know about? And like the first climb, I just remember riding next to people and like they're like,
Yeah.
like this is not good for you, buddy. And I just knew I'd catch a lot of the people, and sure enough, even within 5 hours, there were people who were fried,
Yeah.
and even less than that. And I was like, I just committed to that. And so yeah, that's really key. And then with fueling, I think the only thing I'm good at with bikes literally is eating on the bike. Like I'm like I would say I'm one of the best out there eating on a bike. I'm really not good at anything else, but I can eat on the bike and I still have a really strong stomach. So like
Yeah.
I'm bound this year's 22 hours. I did 110 grams of carbs an hour for 22 hours. And a lot of that was solid food
Yeah.
and gas station food. And so
Yeah.
like I can just down stuff. And so for me, I think the biggest thing is finding stuff that that looks good because if it doesn't look good, you're not going to eat it. And now people are like, what do you mean? Like, I love sugar. I'm like, or like, I can get through, I don't get flavor fatigue in a 5 hour race. I'm like, once you get above like 15 hours or even less, like, it's unbelievable. Like, you just get tired
Yep.
of sweet stuff.
Yep.
And there are times you have to force it down. I think I've gotten a lot more used to it where like I can now just handle it. But yeah, like for me, go tos. So I work with Carbs Fuel, so I start with a lot of their gels, and big perk of them, just shameless sponsor plug, is the 50-gram gels. Like I'll be honest, I never use the 25-gram gels because I I can carry way fewer gels and have a lot of fuel. And
Yep.
so for me, it's like it's also important to save some of that because sometimes later in the race, you're just like, I need something that actually is like easily digestible,
Yep.
and having some of those gels are really helpful. So I use those and the salted ones, especially because I don't use drink mix. I don't. For me, it's I like having water that's plain because if everything else is sweet and your water's sweet, then it gets too much. It be too much. It also takes time to put in drink mix sachets into bottles and stuff when you're at a stop. So for me, it's just like use their salted gels. I'll also bring electrolyte tabs for when I run out of those. But then when it comes to buying food at a gas station, I mean, I love Oreos. Those are great. Okay, are they optimal? No, they're super high in fat, but I work with a
Nothing needs to be
dietitian.
optimal 15 hours, dude.
Exactly. I work with a dietitian. He's like, look, you're burning so many calories that like, fat has 9 calories per gram.
Yeah.
Carbs and protein have 4. And if you part of your goal is just also to minimize that deficit. So if you're eating high fat stuff, that's great. And also, I mean, I know people who could do like liquid for like 20 hours. I'm like, oh, like I've got a really strong stomach, but you start to feel hungry. Like even if you're getting in the fuel, you need stuff in your stomach. And so, yeah, I mean, I kind of think of like my bars, gas station food, Oreos, any like cookies, anything like that. And my gels become like Haribo gummies. I like especially sour Haribo because they're a
Yep.
little bit less sweet.
Yep.
But they're just as sugary, but they seem less sweet. Donuts, um, can't beat a can't beat a donut. So yeah, it's just like what looks good, and you just gotta get that. If it's something savory, get it.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Well, and I'm so fascinated by all this stuff, but like to a lot of listeners who are like, why are we diving into all this like geeky stuff we don't usually dive into? I've started to dive into it with the ultra crowd because partly like all of this still gets back to taking care of ourselves and having the best
Yep.
experience, which
Definitely.
means tomorrow's going to be the best experience too. And so if you can figure out how to pace your race better, or if you can figure out how to fuel better, I think you're going to have more fun tomorrow because of it. And the other piece is when we're talking about like having a good experience or taking care of ourselves, you tinker with your bicycle a lot.
Yeah.
From from what I have observed, uh, maybe on par with this kind of stuff Logan does with his setup, but
No, I don't think anyone. Logan and
well, no,
Lachlan Morton. No,
yeah,
no one
that's
beats
true.
Logan and Lachlan. No one. No one.
Logan texted me last night and said, "I'm in the machine shop making a new spider. Do you want one?" And I'm like, I don't even know what I would do with what you're making, but amazing. Why do you like to spend all that time tinkering with your bike? What does that do for you?
Yeah. So the interesting thing is, I tinker with my bike a lot, but my position, I am very picky about position, and so I don't run road shoes. And the main reason is not, well, partly because the races I'm doing, it's like you're going to have to hike at some point,
Yeah. Yes.
but also I don't like switching shoes. So I'm very like particular about saddle height, saddle setback, saddle angle, the saddle I use, all that stuff, complete position. But when it comes to setup, for me, it's thinking about what's going to be like. So people talk about fastest. So I guess that's a good place to start. One of my favorite sayings from Ken Avery, who is the vice president of product at Vittoria. So he's designed, he's probably designed the tires you're riding on, whether you know it or not, Vittoria or otherwise. He's had a lot of experience in the industry. But he always says the fastest tire is what gets you from point A to point B the fastest.
Yes.
It's not what is the fastest rolling. Maybe on a track, yeah, probably the fastest rolling. But you can run the lightest tires, the fastest tires outbound, and you might just fly the bunch.
Yeah.
So is that fast? No. Or you can run really narrow tires and be super uncomfortable or something. And is that fast? No, not in an ultra race.
Yeah.
And so it's like you have to. I kind of take that mentality to just to my setup in general. So like suspension, gravel suspension, huge fan of it. So I got a RockShox Rudy. I've got the 40 mil. I tested out the 60 mil, the XL before it came out, and I essentially will never race without a fork suspension fork again.
Yeah.
Even in shorter races. I I convinced my friend to get one for Badlands. He came over. Jace, a good friend of mine, that lives out in LA, and this German guy commented on his setup, and was like, "Yeah, like that's super heavy," and he's like, "God, it's gonna be slow." And I told Jason, like, you should tell him. Let's chat after the race and see who's laughing because it's weight. I mean, I don't care about weight. Like you're carrying
Yeah.
so much in ultra anyway.
Yeah.
Like it's comfort is huge. How smooth your like suspension, gravel suspension is kind of like it's really not like a, mountain bike suspension. It's like a damper, but you can go carry so much more speed. My upper body was still wrecked even with gravel suspension. You can avoid flatting. It's just so much better. Same with tires. It's like, you could run the fastest tire on paper, but I love bicycle rolling resistance, but it's just not a drum. Like,
Right. Right.
it's not the fastest in the real world. And also, if you run a really light tire, you're probably going to flat. And
Yep.
like, I mean, it doesn't matter what brand you run. It's like, if you're doing ultra races, like you be running a durable tire. Same like I run inserts. And so for me, like I will mess around with tire setups a lot and like pressure. But for me, number one thing is just durability and
Yep.
comfort. And that,
100%.
because that's ultimately what's going to get you to the finish line the fastest and have the most fun. Because I mean, flatting is just isn't fun either. Like
No.
it's just like it's a hassle. And at some point in ultra, if you're out there in the middle of nowhere, like you might just run out of stuff.
Yep.
And so yeah, that's kind of it. And then with bag setups, like I'm very lucky to work with Tailfin, and they've got so many incredible setups. And they also don't rub your frame, which is great because some bags like you end up with like scuffs everywhere, and like I've my gravel bike looks perfectly fine except for where I hit it with a broken spoke at 30 miles an hour. That took some pain off, but other than that, it looks fine. It's just like finding combos of bag setup. So like at Unbound, I used a prototype bag that was most of the main triangle. But like with Traka and with Badlands, my favorite bag setup is the 3.2 liter half frame bag, and then the 2.2 top tube bag, and it's just like perfect. Like I love a big top tube bag because it's easily accessible. Same with the frame bag. And then I use internal frame storage in my pivot vault as well. And then like for bike packing, like when did that trip in the UK, their Aero pack is really good. It's renamed, but now it's in the cargo pack. But just like super stable. So it's just like messing around with how do you like to set things up. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter what someone else is doing. If you're comfortable with it, it's probably the right setup. And I think the other thing is once you land on something, kind of sticking with it, especially like where you put things,
Yeah.
because there's a lot of pockets and bags, and there's a lot of things you have to carry. If you're tired, you're gonna be like, where did I put that again? So just having a consistent place where it's like, okay, for me, my left cargo pocket is my trash can. All my trash
Yeah.
goes in there,
Yeah.
and that way, when I'm reaching in my back pocket or in my top two bag, everything I grab out has food in it still. I'm not rummaging
Sure.
around wrappers.
Yeah.
My right hand pocket, it's like, you know, Dynaplug, CO2, and then like always have on my body, I'll have cash. Because inevitably what happens is if you walk into a gas station, you'll be like, shoot, I forgot my cash um, in my on my bike. And so just stuff like that, having that in your body, but
Yeah.
just little things like that. But yeah, I think like with tinkering, it's just, yeah, finding what works and sticking to it. So yeah.
So you had a real successful Badlands this year. That's not why you're moving to Girona, obviously. But I'm guessing that Spain has pulled on your heart, or you're tugged at your heartstrings a little bit. Why? Why are we moving from the U.S. to Girona at this point?
Yeah, I mean, I guess to start, Traka 560 this year was just, it was incredible. It's just like a dream. Like through that course was amazing. But I've spent a little time in Girona, really good friends with Joe Laverick, who lives over there, and so he'll come kind of stay with me over here and travel to races, and I'll stay with him for the Traka. For me, most of the big ultra races are over in Europe. So there are some here, and there's an increasing number. So obviously, Unbound XL is the big one. There's stuff like Arkansas High Country Race. There's obviously Tour Divide. There's actually gonna be a new one in British Columbia next year called Further BC. There's gonna be race across Quebec. There are ultras, but the big ones are in Europe. And I think for me, it's like this is the time for me to do it. 25. I don't. I'm not married. Don't have a girlfriend. Don't have dogs. I don't own a house. I don't. I don't have. I mean, I work a job that I can do remotely, which I'm very fortunate about. We'll get into that, but um, it's just like this is the time to do it. And beyond being good for racing, it's a really cool life experience. And
Yeah.
so, speaking of my job, my company is called Miso Partners. The reason it's called Miso Partners is because my boss lived in Japan when he worked for Vitamin Water. So he helped launch Vitamin Water in Japan. And when he was younger, before that, like probably younger than me, he lived in Europe working for Mavic. And his response to me saying I'm interested in going to Europe was like not like, oh, we should see, we'll see. It was like, no, like go, like you should go. It was like I fully support you because it's like it's such a cool life experience that will serve you really well in the future.
Yeah.
And so I'm very fortunate about that. So yeah, it's just like now's the time to do it. It's scary, but honestly, like the number of replies I've gotten from people who are a little older than me being like, I wish I had done that. It made
Sure.
me realize like I need to do this. And honestly, like it's a hassle. Like there's so many things to go through. I'm still researching this. I might be paying double taxes. I'm not sure on the tax laws because it's pretty easy if you're a retiree to move over there.
Yeah.
But like if you're working remotely for an American company, it's hard. And like I talked with my dad about this because he like just retired, but he worked for like a very large company that had offices all around the world. And I was like, so do you guys have a department that handles this when you're relocating employees? He's like, yeah, we have like an entire legal team and department. I'm like, it kind of makes sense now because I'm doing this one person who is working remotely for a company that doesn't make money, it only makes money in one country. And I'm still like, this is so confusing. And I can't imagine if you're working
Right.
for a company that makes money in 20 different countries, has offices everywhere, like it's like a black box. And
Yeah.
like every government, you know, trying to find the information you need, it's buried on subpage Z on page 100 of this. And it's just like, yeah, but I think for me, it's like, do it now because
Yeah.
same way you can't, I can't race professionally when I'm 50, obviously,
Yep.
and I can't move over. I mean, maybe some reason my job will take me over there, but probably not. I'm not going to be over
Right.
in Spain. I'm going to be back here, so do it now.
Yeah. So what races are you eyeing up?
Yeah, so I've got a wish list that will take me approximately 3 lifetimes to complete. So, but next year, hopefully Atlas Mountain Race. So the registration is closed, but hopefully going to be able to get into that. Uh, Possibly with a friend from the US. I won't name him because we're not 100% sure yet. It'll work out.
Sure. Yep.
Doing the pairs race because I've done a pairs race at Swiss Epic, which is like a regular
Yep.
mountain bike stage race, and it was really fun. So I'm interested to do that. It's a good time of year. Traka 560. I will come back for Unbound XL, assuming I get into the lottery, which hopefully I can find out in like a month or so. Um, and then, just in case you're wondering, previous results at Unbound don't mean anything unless you win it. I've been top five twice, and it's a lottery. Like I promise you, like it's not a maybe if you're like if Tadej Pogačar or like when Matthew Mohoric comes, I'm sure they let him in, but like no one else gets that treatment.
Yep.
Yeah, and then looking at like Mother North, which is an ultra race in Norway. I really wanted to do Bright
Okay.
Midnight, which is really cool because it's an ultra race, but it's all in daylight because it's light 24/7 where it is in the
Sure.
Arctic Circle.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and then probably there's Trans Pyrenees is one. I want to do Arkansas High Country Race. There's a lot. I mean, it's honestly like too many to list.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I'm still mapping things out. It's definitely stressful registering. Some of these are and definitely Badlands again. I do want to do that. I mean, a lot of these are application races, so like I know I'm into Traka. Some of them are fill up fast. Some of them it's like it doesn't matter who you are. It's lottery or they
Yeah.
just like they won't pick you, and so you have to factor that in. So yeah, just we'll see, but there's so much cool stuff to do, and not all of it's big. I mean, Badlands is big, Unbound's big, Traka's big, but there's a lot of smaller ones that are just like,
Yeah.
man, this looks
Yeah.
really cool. So
Yeah. Yeah. So I think today, I mean, literally today, it's November 8th when we're recording this. It'll be December when this comes out, mid-December most likely. But I believe it was today or yesterday, you mentioned your friend that'll come stay with you, Joe, is it Laverick?
yep,
Just put out kind of a scathing review of the new Gravel Earth series. And you're not racing that, although some of the races cross over, but
Yep.
the state of pro gravel, not in the ultra scene, is quite interesting to just sit back and look at right now in this country. And you had posted Joe's article, and it was a very interesting read if people want to go find his Substack as well. But what are your thoughts on where things are going in pro gravel right now?
Yeah, so he and I have a lot of conversations about this. I read through a few drafts of that, and I might have to take credit for the title of that. But I think like it's tough because so I just on the gravel or series side, for example, I raced Oregon Trail the last couple of years. I love that race, and individual events are great, but I think we also are reaching a place where gravel is not as welcoming as it. Yeah, everyone talks about the spirit of gravel. I mean, even when I was putting my name in from Unbound XL, I had to agree saying that I am to something saying I am the spirit of gravel, capital S, capital G. And I sent it to Holy Spirit of Gravel, who's actually, by the way, great friend. She's really funny,
Oh
just a
yeah,
great person.
she's one of the
And
people who
I was like,
recommended you.
I don't think I can agree to this. Like this is impersonation. Like what? But I was obviously joking. But I think
Yeah,
like you know the idea of gravel is welcoming as inclusive, and then you look at the cost of races.
yeah,
So and you're like it costs of lifetime events. And honestly, I'll pick on lifetime. Like they're not an independent race promoter. They're a multi-billion-dollar corporation.
yep.
Their main business is fitness centers, and not just any fitness centers. They're very fancy fitness centers. Uh, and what they've realized is people will pay no matter what. They're always going to fill. Like Leadville costs well over $500 now just to
Yeah,
enter, just to
yeah,
enter. But they're like, we'll always fill it. Just charge whatever we want. And cycling is already a very expensive sport. It's already predominantly white. It's predominantly male, and that doesn't help with that. And it doesn't help make it welcoming because I'd say like one of the reasons I haven't raced road is the road scene to me. Joe comes from the roadside, but the road scene, like even just the amateur road scene in the U.S. is just it just felt mean to me. Like,
yeah,
I remember you still go to road group rides and people are like said like why aren't you rotating into the wind properly instead of you're rotating away from the wind? It's like man, like I come from a mountain bike background. I'm sorry, like like you don't have to treat me like a sack of crap.
yeah,
And so I think gravel has some of that has started to come into it where the pro side of gravel, for example, is super cutthroat, super just like marginal gains. People used to retire from the world tour and be like, retirement gig, get to go race gravel, don't really have to train. Not anymore. You want to do
yeah,
well, you better be training as much as those world tour guys.
yeah,
And I think like I love some of the people, like for example, Cam Jones, incredible human, like amazing human. But just the general scene has gotten so intense and there's so much pressure and so much on the line. It's just not as fun anymore.
yeah,
And I think it's clicky as well. So like in the same way it was like that on the development team I was on, like
yep,
there are people who just like, I'm too cool for you sort of vibe. And
yeah,
so I don't like that. And yeah, and I think and then just on the amateur side again, like with the cost of things, like, you know, Unbound is, the XL I think is 275, but that's the cheap part. I mean, getting
yeah,
housing there, if you can get housing there,
yeah. If yes,
it's and it's like they say it's not a problem. I'm like, yeah, it's a problem. Like, it's not just a problem for the racers, it's a problem for the people that live there.
yeah,
Yes, it's an opportunity for them to make really good money. But we come in, and I wrote a Substack piece about this last year after this year, this past spring, after Mid South, being like, look, we come into these towns, we treat them like our playgrounds for a weekend, and then we leave. We're like, see ya. We just take over the town. It's our town for the weekend. It's like our playground. But like
yeah,
people live there. Like people, this is like their home,
yeah,
and sometimes that just is super tough. And I think like the cost plays into it, where it's like just a bunch of rich people coming in, using it as a playground and then
yeah,
out and flying home.
yeah,
And so yeah, it's just it's an interesting time. I Ultra has the same complaints. There was a .coms pod, which is uh
Yeah,
that's like,
I know what it
yeah.
is.
So
Yep.
they
Yep.
they just put it. I haven't listened to it yet, but they put out a piece about is Ultra races too expensive, and I mean it's the same issue, and people are worried, but it's like gravel is that much further ahead in this. I don't want to say regression, but change into kind of more of this super cutthroat like road racing style sport. It's for me, like I do love ultra because people generally are a lot more welcoming, and
Yeah.
people don't talk to you like they don't talk down to you. Like
Right.
you're just like another person there,
Yep.
which I appreciate because I really don't like that when especially professionals are like, yeah, it's just not good. It's
Yeah.
general human, as a human. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see where things go. I think safety is a huge issue. So,
Yeah.
for example, with Gravel Air Series, or with Traka, um, every Traka event is a non-competitive bicycle ride per their website. There are podiums. There is a lot of clout on the line. I think there's cash for the there are at least there are podium prizes for the short distances. And even if there's not, I mean, you win Traka,
It's a big deal.
you're gonna get
Yeah.
bonuses. You're
Yeah.
gonna that's sponsors, yeah. And the idea is that's to get around insurance, and I don't think that's acceptable anymore. It's just not acceptable. Like you can't
Yeah.
do that. It's a race. Like I've ridden the Traka 360, and it is elbows out, full gas,
Yeah.
and it only gets more so that way each year. And then with like the Graveler series, like I think part of the issue that personally I have is, and they they had the rift in the. I've never done the rift, but
Mm-hmm.
they had the rift in the series since the beginning, and the rift had always supported them. And then, as Joe said, probably race number two after the Chaka,
Yep.
like that second most important race. Um, had paid to be in the series. Well, paid a lot of money to be in the series. Paid to fly the Gravel Air Series people over, and they've just created a race. The Gravel Air Series has created a race, similar route, same area, similar time, stepping on the rift's toes. And they did this, from what I've heard, they did this behind the backs of the rift. And
Yes.
you know, look, like it's tough because I've interacted with a lot of gravel air series people and like some really great people, but it's just tough to see that because Iceland is smaller than the population of Iceland is smaller than the city I live in. Like
Right.
it's not a
Right.
big community. It's you and people in a race like that, most people aren't coming from 2 hours away. It's not like, oh cool, there's two races now.
Right.
People are flying there for that race.
Yes.
And now it's like, well, now you're gonna take away from the rift. And so I just find it tough to see that. And I think like, yeah, it's an interesting time. It'll be interesting to see where the safety side. Like obviously, there's been deaths in U.S. races in Vermont and stuff. There was a death in a race
Yeah.
I did last year. It's kind of a wild west when it comes to rules. On the pro side, doping is a big concern for me. Like
100%.
don't, I really don't think that everyone's clean. Like I'm gonna be honest. Like when I talk about this a lot, there's they say there's testing in the Grand Prix. I've never talked to an athlete who's been tested. Keegan pays out of his own pocket to be in the registered testing pool, which, by the way, that's not cheap. Like, actually,
Yeah.
props to him. That's a lot of money that he has to pay to do that. But it's like anyone kind of do whatever they want, and so yeah, there's a lot of concerns. I think like I always like to say, gravel is in his awkward teenage years where it's like its brain hasn't developed, but it's kind of gangly and like yeah, that I think that's where we're at right now. So hopefully we hit more mature years soon. But yeah, it's tough to say.
Well, yeah, because it is a beautiful sport, and as much as so much of my content has to do with long mountain bike races, my heart always comes back to gravel, and seeing the things like what you do for your races is really what moves me on the inside to want to go do big adventures. And to kind of see it, like you said, working through these awkward teenage years is tough. And at the same time, like my work in the film part takes me like right into the center of it, and it's fun to be there, and it's fun to be at Unbound, even if you're sitting in like the worst media meeting I've ever been a part of. But like, it's a blast to go on all these adventures. and kind of be in the thick of it with the handful of pros that I guess my clique that I roll with, because that's who I'm filming. But there are definite, like, yeah, there's times where you look back and you're like, okay, I don't know if this is all right, how this is going, or I maybe
Yeah.
wouldn't be doing it this way. And so, yeah, but at least everybody in Emporia that rents their house out gets to pay their mortgage for the year off that 1 week.
Yeah.
So
I will say, like, it's expensive, but if I lived in Emporia, I would do the same thing. I mean, like,
100%.
it's, like, these are, look, like, none of those people there are making millions of dollars. What I
Right.
mean? It's not, they're teachers, and like we stayed with a teacher last year, a person who's, it was pretty funny. I stayed in a room, it was like all pink dolls everywhere. It was great. It was so funny, but I would do the same thing. And it's like, we're coming into their town and they have every right to do that. And
Yep.
I think the big challenge is like, it's the town doesn't have the capacity for this race. It just
Correct.
doesn't.
Correct.
And it's like, yeah, a race like Gravel Worlds is great. Gravel Worlds in Lincoln, Nebraska. Lincoln, Nebraska is a city. They have
Yes.
capacity. It's not a big
Yes.
deal. Um, but a race like Unbound, not really.
Yeah. Yeah. All good. Okay. That's been a lot of serious talking, Chris, and we need to relax a little bit here on our way out. Um, this is random fire. People
Yep.
sometimes have called it rapid fire. It's not quick and it's all over the place. So
Okay. Yeah.
you're just gonna have to deal with kind of, as I spin the big drum, what question comes out next. But we always get things started first of all with the gas station question, and I feel like someone in the ultra world is gonna be like a connoisseur of the gas station and what to get. But there's some parameters here. You and I have gone for like a long bomb,
Yep.
a real long one. We've got maybe 2 hours to get home. And this is a rural gas station. It probably has like taxidermy on the walls
Oh yeah.
inside.
Yep. Yep.
There's like a bait tank in the back. They've got like the essentials, but this is not like a quick trip or some fancy gas station that serves hot food. That's off the table.
Yeah.
So, what are we getting to eat and drink to get us home?
Pack of Marlboros? No. So, probably, most gas stations have this now. They're cereal bars. They're like cinnamon
Yes.
toast crunch bars. So good. So good. They have everything. Like, it's any cereal flavor you loved as a kid in a bar. Perfect. Um, so those, honestly, drink. I don't like Coke. I never get Coke, and I'll just get water. Like,
Okay.
if I'm, yeah, I mean, I'm just not I'm not really as much of a soda person. Okay, in the U.S., in Spain, soda is better. Like, it's because
Oh,
they use real cane.
100%.
They use real
Yeah.
cane sugar. So
Yes.
Fanta in Spain is great.
Yes.
So I will go with that. But yeah, I'd say those cereal bars. If you don't have those, then Oreos, or some sort of. Sometimes they have, like, homemade Rice Krispies. Some of those gas stations have homemade stuff. Like, if they're homemade cookies, oh, totally.
Yeah, we're
You
talking
know,
like sitting on the counter next to the cash register.
yeah, yep, exactly,
Yes.
100%. Go for one of
Yeah.
those.
Okay, right on. That's a top shelf pick as far as I'm concerned. And yeah, European or just outside the U.S. soda is off the
Yep,
charts. I spent the better part of 3 summers in Poland teaching English,
yep,
and I drank a lot of Fanta while I was
yep,
there. And I remember Fanta wasn't in the U.S. yet at the
yep,
time, and I remember coming back, and then Fanta came in like a year later, and I was like, this tastes like crap compared to what I was drinking
yep,
in Poland.
yeah,
So
yep,
yeah, get that European, the Mexican Coke as they call it, and if you're lucky, you can find the Fanta too. So
exactly.
glass bottle. Okay. Uh, Unbound, Traka, or Badlands. You can only choose one.
Uh, Traka 560. Yeah, just for the course, 100% Traka 560.
Okay. Uh, is that course like very mountain heavy on the front half or the back?
Yeah, it's just like it's cool because you kind of get everything. So
Okay.
you go up into the Pyrenees in the front half, get that over in the day, which is cool because you also get the views. And at night you're on the coast and kind of in the plains. And it's just such a diverse course. I really love it. So yeah.
Okay. Uh, Logan Casper asks,
Oh boy.
was the mud at True Grit worse than the mud at Unbound 23?
Oh God. Yes. So for some context, he and I flew out to True Grit Epic, which always has weather issues. I swear. True Grit Epic, St. George, Utah. Also same clay peanut butter mud. 2021, and it got canceled because they got a bunch of snow. And I was like, oh, I'm gonna go explore. So I went for a gravel ride, and I think I might have called my parents like crying, like I think I'm gonna be out here all night. Like I like was like, oh, this is fine, I'll get through this. And I ended up dragging my bike sideways behind me because I couldn't wheel it. It was too heavy to lift. And I did, unfortunately, a fair bit of frame damage. So I would say
Sorry,
Unbound.
pivot.
This was when I was on Bear still, actually.
Oh,
So sorry, Bear. But no, I'd say Unbound mostly just because of the amount of time we were dealing with it, and it was at night. So yeah,
okay.
I'd say Unbound.
Okay. Am I correct in that that was a 5 mile walk in the dark?
Uh, I have no idea how long. I don't remember how long it was distance wise, but I spent at least 3 hours total walking, if not more. And there was like it's so skewed because it feels like oh, it must have been like a 20-mile walk, but it probably wasn't. But man, it was just so yeah, it just took forever. I think there was one block where it was just 2.5 hours spent. I did what was it like 2 miles in 2.5 hours? It was something ridiculous. It was really really bad. So yeah, that was a perfect storm, literally.
And that's why he always wears mountain bike shoes, kids.
Yeah. Honestly, road shoes are overrated. Don't wear road shoes.
Agree 100%. Okay. Uh, this is a very important question that the listeners get upset with me about, and I get DMs about if I don't ask it. Are you into Harry Potter or Lord of the Rings?
Oh, I'm gonna get a lot of hate for this. Until I moved in with my roommate, I had never seen or read either. None. And I moved in with her last year, and she heard that, and she was like, this is a crisis. This must be dealt with immediately. This is like I think it was to the point where she probably was like gonna kick me out as a roommate. So I've seen three Harry Potter movies. Never seen any Lord of the Rings yet, so I just have to say Harry Potter. Yeah, I know it's terrible to admit. I was made fun of by an English teacher in high school. Harry Potter is not something you're taught in English class. It's pretty junk, but still, she was like, "You haven't. What's wrong with you?" So yeah, Harry Potter. But yes, I'm a
And
yeah,
you told her I didn't have a TV in my house growing up. I was outside playing.
yeah. I mean, but like, I still should have read them. You know what I mean? Like that would have been pretty normal. But you know, there's always this. I must have what like 20 of them left to get through. So I've still got plenty more. I've only made it through the first few. So.
It's all good. I'm not even going to ask you the follow up question based on what you just told me. It's all good. Okay. We'll check that one off. The next question. When you're on these super epic long rides, are you listening to anything or is it just like 28 hours with Chris Mehlman's thoughts?
Uh, Probably can't say this, but raw dog. No, no, so I mean, more seriously, no, I almost never listen to anything, but the last 10 hours of Badlands, I had a set of shocks that I got, and I brought them, and I brought them as like a reward and like a kick, you know what I mean, and I put them in, and man, that was so good. I usually training. I do listen to podcasts. I don't really listen to music,
Okay.
but I love
Okay.
listening to podcasts, history, politics, science, like anything. But cycling, I just like learning stuff. But I back through music, and I mean, I have one playlist that started when I was like 14, so it's like a whole like it just I just was listening to random stuff, but it was just so good. I was like I was absolutely, yeah, it was absolutely what I needed, but generally, no.
Okay. Uh, so if you have this playlist and you can only grab one song from it, do you have a favorite?
God. I feel like it changes very often. I mean, I think the playlist is it's like a diary of my mood. Like you can kind of tell when winter is because the songs change, and and so uh, man, I mean,
Perhaps I can narrow this for you, Chris. And you mentioned the Holy Spirit of Gravel earlier, and she and I have joked about hosting a activation at Unbound that is a karaoke party.
yeah.
And if you were to attend this, obviously now as friends to both of us, what song would you sing?
I mean, I think like if I'm gonna do karaoke, I might as well just go all in and completely embarrass myself. So I'll make my roommate proud and say something from Taylor Swift. Because if you're gonna do karaoke, it would be my worst nightmare anyway. So you might as well. And like, I feel like it would have to be like early Taylor Swift, like
Sure.
country Taylor Swift.
Oh boy.
Um,
Okay.
yeah. So yeah, I think that's if we're gonna go the karaoke route. Yeah, I think that's the
Okay.
route we're gonna go.
See, this is a good time, right? These
Yep.
we're bringing the mood back up here. Okay.
Tough questions.
Yeah. Well, I call this the Wahoo question because they support me, but I know you're going to call it the Hammerhead question because I've never heard you talk about your computer on any interview where you don't drop your Hammerhead. So, what is on your main screen? The prime. I don't want to hear the third one you sweep over to. Main screen when
Racing
you
or
ride.
training?
Let's go with racing.
Okay, racing. I have map, and then at the top I have distance, and I have now. Actually, I do have power, but I also have like the turn cues, and then the yeah. I usually don't get into the secondary screens, but I have it set so every possible notification is on. It alerts me for upcoming points of interest that I mark. So like water's coming up in 3 miles or terrain like surface change, everything because any notification helps. But yeah, that's what's on it. And then I use my axis buttons to zoom in and out of the map and switch screens. And I just got those this year and those are like game changing.
Sure.
Not fully sponsored by SRAM, but they're like the best investment I've made in a long time. So
Yeah. Well, and all those notifications probably help from 3 to 4 in the morning when your body's trying to like
yeah,
kill you in order to make you sleep.
and I will say having a good screen when you're navigating small Spanish villages at night is because even the smallest Spanish village is a maze. I swear. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
well, okay, which left am I taking? And so having good navigation is like crucial, 100% for ultras.
Sure. You have traveled to a lot of destinations. You've
Yep.
done a lot of races. What is I think I know the first part of this. What is your favorite one you've done so far? And then what is one that you look to the future and you're like, man, that's where I want to go?
I think like course and just experience Traka 560 and Badlands. I mean, both, yeah, but probably
Yeah.
Traka 560, but Badlands, I think more. The reason why I don't list it is because the temperature. That was it, and just like I mean, it's desert. It's brutal, and for a lot of it. Looking forward to probably Atlas Mountain Race and like the whole mountain race series. So Atlas, Hellenic, and Silk Road. I really want to do all
Ooh.
three. Like those
Ooh.
are, and then
Yes.
also I mean, honestly, everything transcontinental. I want to do some road ultras. Like that's like a I'm not a roadie, but as I said, but that's mostly I don't want to race road races and crits, but like a road ultra
Yeah.
sounds really sick. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's a lot to do.
Yeah. Silk Road just that one looks crazy. And like
It,
in the best possible way.
oh, it's I know people have done it. It sounds like the hardest possible thing you can do, but I mean, when else are you going to go to Kyrgyzstan? You know what I mean?
Right.
So
Exactly. Exactly. Okay. Last one. Uh, you talked a lot about early on people that were around you that kind of kept you going and kept you from throwing the towel in, and people that supported you and made you want to just continue. And you've talked even now about whether it's your boss that has kind of said, hey, go all in on this. And you've talked about your parents, but my last question is always like, who inspires you on a huge basis? Like once in a while you think about them, but they're really helping you drive, or just on a daily basis, who is inspiring you?
Yeah, I mean, obviously I've mentioned my parents definitely. But I think I think, let's just focus on the ultra racing scene. Somebody like Lachlan actually does. I know that's a classic answer, but a few reasons for that. One is, his adventures in the videos EF does are amazing, but he's also a really good person. Like he is exactly the same in person as he is in video, like, which is rare. Like it often is the case where professionals are like one way in video, and then when you actually meet them, like, oh, this guy isn't that nice. He's a really good dude. Like one of my favorite stories about him. So I raced him a lot. Well, I've raced him a bunch at Breck Epic, but like he had done Leadville the day before. This was 2023, I think.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
one of my friends had raced Leadville, adult friend, testy kids, and came to the start of Breck Epic, like, say hi and watch me start, which is really cool. And Lachlan, without asking, went up to him and said, "Hey Chris, how was your race yesterday?" And because my friend had like talked with him, do you think about how many hundreds of people had probably been asking for Lachlan's autograph and stuff?
Yep.
And Lachlan remembered that. And I'm like, I wouldn't remember a person's name. Like that was like that really stood out to me. So I think just being that sort of like accessible, friendly, and like that inspires me. And just, again, just enjoying riding a bike. Like his story is really interesting. He was an incredibly talented road rider. Obviously won the Tour of Utah. Well, he went to the World Tour first. He was like too
Yep.
young for it.
Yep.
Went back to Conti C and won the Tour of Utah. Went back to the World Tour. Still didn't really like it. Just didn't fit in. And then found his calling. And I feel like at a much, 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 much lower level, I've kind of done the same where I'm like, kind of done different things and finally like, oh, I've actually found this is what I'm meant to do. So yeah,
Yeah.
definitely him. And then another person who is pretty inspiring is a friend of mine, Sharon Sloan, who she was hit by a car back in 2014, and she was an ear doctor. She nearly lost her life, and she actually remembers in the helicopter hearing the whatever the code is, pretty much saying this person's going to die. And she was like conscious enough to understand that because she was an ER doctor,
Mm-hmm.
and she actually pulled through, and she's done Breck Epic. She's been mountain biking in Nepal, in Guatemala. She's been does all this wild stuff, and like she has some motor challenges, with just from
Sure.
she had severe brain injuries,
Yep.
and like she finished dead last at Breck Epic the year we did. It was the year we did it together, and like she is so much harder to do that than it
Yep.
is to like do what the front people are doing, because you just
100%.
finish in 3 hours and then you're just sitting on the couch. And so like that, yeah, somebody like that really really does inspire me a lot, because like she's also just a really great person, but like man, she's so tough, like
Yeah.
so tough.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Awesome. Those are that's beautiful, man. And thank you for sharing that. And this has been great. I think we've crossed the finish line for longest interview here, Chris.
I don't know if that's a good or bad thing. Well,
It's
I guess
it,
we'll let the listeners decide.
yeah, we'll find out. This has been really good though, and I appreciate your candor and your honesty,
Yep.
and just the time you've taken. And for people, most of the time these get scheduled like a month or two out, and I knew with you leaving for Girona soon, I was like, we got to get this done, because the transcontinental interview is a pain in the butt. And so
Exactly.
we
Yep.
threw this together in like 24 hours. So yeah, man, I so appreciate what you're doing, and thank you for being on the show today.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me. It's been really fun chatting. You're a very, very good interviewer, so it's actually very, very impressive. And thanks for putting it together. Yeah, very, very last minute. So.
Thanks for hanging out with Chris and me today. Do me a favor, and if you enjoyed the episode, please share it with someone who you think might enjoy it. I do hope you have an amazing week. I hope you are taking good things away from these conversations I'm having. And more than anything, I hope that you remember that you are loved.